Whenever people gather in churches, there is a need for dignity and quiet that is conducive to worship. But occasionally, things happen. Something goes wrong. When this happens, it calls for prompt action from one trained to meet such situations. The Church Usher. The minister, as prophet, spiritual leader, and preacher, has the most important role in the worship life of the church. He must direct the several activities of the service and create an atmosphere which will help the people achieve a spirit of worship. In most churches, the minister is assisted by ushers. As doorkeepers in the house of the Lord and assistants to the minister, they have an important function to perform too. But without careful planning and preparation, the ushers can fail to be an asset to the minister and the service of worship he is directing. They can even create more disturbance than order. They may even become a disturbing element in the service. Such a simple thing as the way ushers are dressed can create an atmosphere of harmony and order. But if each one is clothed differently, the impression is one of confusion and disharmony. Well, let's go back to the beginning and see how this should be done. Often the usher provides that all-important first impression to the arriving people. His appearance is important. What the ushers wear may be a matter of decision made by the ushers and the minister. In some informal congregations, it may be proper for ushers to be coatless in the summer. In others, the proper mode of dress may be similar colored suits or even formal coats and ties. So long as the apparel fits in with the manner of dress of the congregation and the dress of all the ushers is similar, good taste can be the criterion. Uniformity of dress can also be a means of identification. Another means of identification is the small lapel flower. One of the ushers should be selected as the head usher. He may be selected by the minister, the worship committee, official board, or board of deacons. He holds a position of trust and importance and should be a person of mature judgment with talent for leadership. It is his job to see that there are enough ushers on hand at every service, to assign the ushers their individual stations, to work out the procedures for directing special services, and to instruct the other ushers in their duties. An important part of the usher's duties is seating the persons as they arrive. As persons come, the usher should find out how many are in the party that are to be seated together. He will ask them to follow him down the aisle to a place he has selected. The usher will stop by the pew in front of the one the people are to enter and turn to face them. As the people enter the pew, and not before, the usher should give them a bulletin. He should wait until they are comfortably seated before returning to the narthex for the next group. If the people indicate that they would prefer a seat other than the one the usher has selected, the usher should allow them to sit wherever they like. Always there are those who arrive after the service begins. To avoid disturbing the service, the ushers should suggest that these wait in the narthex for a few moments. The usher may be guided by instructions in the church bulletin indicating when late arrivals may be seated. If possible, seats should be saved at the rear of the church so that latecomers can be seated without disturbing the congregation or embarrassing the late arrivers. It is helpful if the usher can give them a hymnal open to the proper place so that they can join in the service immediately. As the service continues, those ushers stationed near the rear should remain at their stations. They should look after the physical comfort and well-being of the congregation as inconspicuously as possible. If a person becomes ill during the service, the quick and quiet action of an usher is needed to avoid disturbing the congregation or embarrassing the sick person. An usher should stay with the sick person until it can be determined what should be done. In some cases, it may be necessary to telephone for a doctor or an ambulance. In some churches, an agreement is reached with a physician in the congregation that he may be called out of the sanctuary if needed. The actions of the ushers can emphasize that the offering is a solemn act of worship. The ushers should not do anything that will call attention to themselves. The keynote here is dignity and poise. Normally, each usher will receive one plate and will proceed to an assigned aisle and begin passing the plate along the row of worshipers. His partner at the other end of the pew will pass his plate down the next row. Each usher will remain at the end of the pew where his plate is being passed until it reaches the opposite end. He will then move to the next row to receive the plate that has arrived there. He will then skip one row and start passing the plate he has received down the next pew. If the pew is not filled with people so that the plate can be passed easily along the pew, the usher may simply offer the plate to those near the end of his aisle and go on to the next pew. Where Holy Communion is received at the front altar, the head usher must work out some plan for moving the people easily to the front and then back to the seats. He will need to know how many persons the altar can accommodate at a time. He will want to designate certain aisles for persons to come forward and others for their return to their seats. He will want to assign ushers at strategic points to direct persons in these paths. Other ushers will stand at the ends of the pews. They will indicate to the persons in the pews when they are to come forward. When as many persons as can be accommodated have been invited, the usher will stand at the end of the empty pew to indicate to the others that they are to wait. In churches where communion is received in the pews, the church elders or deacons may serve communion, or the ushers may be designated to do it. It will be handled similarly to passing plates for the offering. As the service ends, the ushers assist the pastor in representing the welcome spirit of the church. They are particularly attentive to visitors, giving them a cordial invitation to come again, or perhaps asking them to fill out a visitor's card for the pastor's information. They are alert for those who need special help. All in all, it is a wonderful opportunity to be a vital part of the worship of the church community, a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord, the church usher.